While people are still joining, we are going to attempt to start right on time to make sure your time is valued here. So the countdown is over, and of course that was a Shift Worship countdown. I would like to welcome everyone to our first webinar for Shift Worship. I'm Dale Carter. I lead the media team for Shift. We have a great team that I will talk about in a moment. As you're joining, feel free to put in where you're from. I see that we have someone from Richmond. I'm from Dallas, so I'm here in the heat. Hope everyone is hanging in there this summer. We will have time at the end for questions, so please feel free to submit them during as well as at the end if things come up that you would like to ask. I would like some back and forth, even though this is a webinar. It's important for you to feel like you get what you need out of this. So again, welcome everyone. I've been with Shift Worship for 1 year full-time. I worked with Shift Worship in the past in multiple ways as a contractor, as well as a partner on a different website. And so I've known the guys at Shift Worship for a long time. And our team is great. We have a dedicated web admin. His name is Chris. You've probably seen the emails. Chris at Shift Worship come out each week. And he helps all with the customer service and uploading our content. And we have 2 full-time graphic designers, Megan and Jason Watson, and they're fantastic. And we'll look at some of their work today. And we also work with many other producers that submit content through Shift Worship, so you have access to all kinds of designers. So what we're going to talk about today, so we can dive right into it, is how to find media you need for your full Sunday service at Shift Worship. So I think we have a handful of people that are brand new, so welcome. If you've been using Shift for a while, you may know a little bit more, but hopefully you can also get some good insight here. There's always things to learn. We'll be focusing on how you would interact with the site as a member, so you have access to everything, and we'll go over that. What I like to do when looking at media for a Sunday service is think about also the prep that goes into it. So a reminder that you'll want to do some prep work, and we'll go over that as well for how you set up searching the site, downloading, and getting your slides ready. One thing I really like to do is focus on kind of one main look for the Sunday service, but then supplement with other things that will fit, and we'll show you that as well. So for example, we have so many pieces of content that are maybe very colorful or nature focused or abstract or stained glass. So, those are very different looking and feeling types of media that you kind of want to figure out how it will be presented to your congregation for that Sunday, if you want a unified look. So what I'll mainly be doing is using one main collection as sort of the base of the outline of the visual service. And then I'll also be supplementing with some other collections, as you'll see. So let's dive right into it. You'll be watching me doing some work, if you will, on my screen. I'm always surprised at how kids watch video game people just play, right? So in a sense, you're gonna be watching me work. So maybe this is familiar to you, maybe it's different, but with this webinar, I'll be pulling up my screen and sharing with you guys some insights here. So where I'd like to start first is the website. So we'll start at Shift Worship. And if you're not a member, this is what the site looks like. Gives you a lot of the insight of what you get. What I'd like to do is go ahead and sign in, and that way you can see all the elements to make your service nice and simple. So first off, when you sign in, the homepage has the newest things. I do want to mention we release a new collection every week, sometimes more than that, which is really great. Timely with the new Constellation collection with the recent pictures out of NASA of space, which is exciting. So you can see there's lots of different types of content that we release each week. And that's just looking at the visual look of it. There's also types of content that we'll get into as well. So as you look through and you decide on how you're gonna build your service, you can also take advantage of our search, which is really robust if you needed to search for nature or anything you'd like, and kind of keep filtering around that way. As I mentioned earlier, you want to prep for your slides. So what I would recommend doing is going into your account, and you can go to manage account. And again, this is for your account when you're a member at Shift Worship. You can set up your media preferences. So every time you download, you get exactly what you need. So maybe your church uses 4K. We offer that. That's great. I select HD and single wide, but if your church uses triple wide, you can also get those widescreen elements. So I'm going to make sure everything is set at HD and single wide. And then that is what you're going to automatically get when you go to download. I will mention Dropbox integration later, and that's for a pro account, which we'll talk about. So if you do want to utilize that, but say you don't need everything for your church, say your church doesn't use After Effects or Photoshop files, you can unselect that from your Dropbox downloads. So now that your preferences are set up, what you'll want to do is start browsing the site. Now I do want to take a quick break to go to my presentation, because what I many times will do is get the order of service and just put that in a slide just so I have it. And it helps me think of what I'm looking for when I'm looking for the media. So you have your, your simple call to worship, welcome, songs, Lord's Prayer, things like that. So I wanted to give a kind of a basic outline that we can show you all the media we have for that type of outline. I will note that I'm using Keynote in this presentation, but all our media works with ProPresenter. It works with Easy Worship, all the other presentation software, and they all work a little differently. We'll have other webinars in utilizing ProPresenter and things like that, but for ease of use, I'll just use Keynote because it's in the linear fashion. So what I've done is I've taken the order of service and actually created slides for those that will populate with the media. And you can do this, maybe you have a templated slide deck that you use every week, or you do a new one each week. It's totally up to you, but that's the way I set this one up. And so what I would do is now go through the website and find what I would want for those elements. So I really kind of liked this coffee welcome. I mentioned earlier, keeping a same theme. Well, I'm going to deviate from my theme for the welcome. I think the welcome can be kind of a unique slide deck because you're not quite settled into the whole church service yet. Maybe you're just welcoming people in. Maybe they're mingling in. Maybe this is where you use the countdown. Shift Worship collections all come with countdowns, 10-minute, 5-minute, and trivia, which are great. So I would download a handful of these. And like I mentioned before, if you're a pro member, you can just sync to Dropbox and it'll download everything there. Or if you like any of these things, I'll be showing you that we'll use a welcome slide. When you pop it open, you just click download there. You can change your format, but remember earlier we set up our preferences, so we know we're HD. If you do want to change that here, you also can. And when you download that, that's going to download to your computer here. Now, here's a little tip for you. I'd like to tell people, when I'm building a service, I actually go into my Chrome settings and change my download folder to a specific folder, so I'm not having to find my downloads within all my other downloads, if that makes sense. So I actually have a folder on my computer. I'll bring that over here so you guys can see this. Under downloads, I can bring this over. Sorry for this delay. Oh, it's because I'm in full screen. 1 second. Exit full screen there. Small snafu, sorry about that, folks. Okay, so my downloads folder, I have a folder that I've called Sunday Slides. I called it webinar because I was using it for you all in this. You may want to date it the Sunday or Wednesday or whenever of your service. And in there is where you'll download everything you want for that particular service. And like I said, I changed that in my Chrome settings. So I've gone through and downloaded a handful of things. I'll show you some of those. Here's the coffee I was talking about, the coffee welcome right there. So also what I've done is really focused the entire service outline with the theme of nature, like I said, except for that coffee welcome. So I liked the Hills collection. It has a lot of unique ways of using some shapes and some cool fonts with the nature background. So I decided to use this for the bulk of the service. So I downloaded this whole collection. The other thing I'd like to point out that all Shift Worship collections, we tell you which font is used. And this is a nice one because it's actually a free font. So if you click that link on the collection page, you can see what font it is. And this is just a simple free Google font. So you download it. So I downloaded that font and it's on my computer. So I can also use that to customize my slides that'll match all the font that's in already, some of the slides made with those words. So back to the folder here. So I downloaded the Hills collection. I have countdowns, motions, and stills. They're all here just so you can use them nice and handy. And then switching back to Keynote, and I know I'm kind of moving fast here. Feel free to put in questions if you have them, and I'll leave some time to go back if we need to at the end. So back open to my Keynote here, my presentation. So I've actually gone ahead and started populating some in a different presentation that I'll show you, but it's very easy once you have everything downloaded. You will just take a file that you like, say you want it here on song 1, and you just grab that video or photo and it's there on the slide. So I actually have a different slide deck here that I started populating for this call to order. So first I started with a countdown. And like I said, I used the welcome coffee countdown. This is the trivia, which is kind of nice. People like the trivia countdowns for kind of, giving the people that are in there a little early something to do and see their Bible knowledge. We have a welcome screen as people walk in. Maybe that's when you're giving announcements. I have put here an extra slide under the welcome that's just blank. So if you wanted to use that to put in announcements or things like that. And then that would be your kind of welcome series, your countdown and welcome. I also wanted to point out that our welcome, many of our products have this sort of streaming look, or sometimes it'll have a look of a computer or something, because we know that sometimes you'll want to do this on a web stream as well as just in your church service. So the order of service had a call to worship. So I put in a slide here that I liked. It's actually a motion background from that Hills collection. And like I mentioned before, using that font, I was able to take that font. So I had the outline, I had the simple Keynote background, and I knew where this was going. So I threw it in here and changed the font to the Gravitas 1, which is what we downloaded. And it makes it look nice and matching with the other elements of that collection if you use those. So moving through, if you have different songs throughout, that's where you would want to potentially put a title slide and then a regular slide. One thing I will note is I like to do a motion and then the matching still, but sometimes it can be a lot to have motion while the songs, while the lyrics are on, if maybe you want something more simple. So I start with a motion with the title, and then it goes directly into the lyric slide, but it's not a motion. So it's still a nice, similar look, but simpler. So you can combine the motions and stills. All Shift Worship collections come with motions and stills that have a corresponding option. So the stills are going to be the same version as the motion, which is nice. All right, hope everyone's hanging in there. Moving on through the slide deck. Downloaded a lot of different options for the songs. So I picked another motion here for a song and a bunch of slides here that I would add the lyrics to. And again, this is different than ProPresenter. If you're used to that, ProPresenter, you would have more of a bucket of media, if you will, that you throw up on the slides kind of on the fly. But this is setting up ahead of time through something like Keynote or PowerPoint. So with song 3, again, you would now have songs populated, then you would go back to your media, look to see what you might like. Maybe you want something like that, something a little bit more unique like this. This one has it flipped the middle part in that square. So you kind of can continue to add elements to your visuals for that Sunday, all based on the same feel. You know, maybe you have a slide and more text for different areas of your service. This one I wanted to point out that we had a section for the Lord's Prayer. So instead of just having that as a reading, we actually have a mini movie on the website called the Lord's Prayer. And so it's a way to have that in a little bit more visual, dynamic way that people can still participate in. So this is a short mini movie that you can plug in. And this one I picked also because it has a nature feel. So one thing that's kind of nice, I mentioned earlier about the search, is you can search for nature and then go to mini movies based on nature. And that's where I found that to kind of match the theme, like I said, of nature. If you were instead doing more abstract, maybe you would search for abstract and go to the mini movies there and match your service that way. All right. Moving on, because I definitely want to make sure we have time for questions and honor your time. So those things are the mini movies. Here's another mini movie for Psalm 23 for a scripture reading. This is a nice subtle one of a field and a voiceover.
The Lord is my shepherd. I lack nothing.
Reading scripture, which is a great way to have scripture reading at your church if you're trying to change it up a little bit. And then, of course, sermon slides would go there. I didn't get into a lot of all the details of these due to time. You know, here's an example of one of the pre-made slides that have text on it. Again, that's why you kind of maybe want to match the font. So real quick, I also wanted to make sure I show some extra tips from the website that can help you with filling in some of your other slides. So we have a lot of other products besides the motion stills and mini movies and countdowns that we've kind of mentioned. And so every collection offers other formats. So I'd like to let you know about that. So social media files are also available. So you can set up ahead of time some promotion for what's going to be coming at your church, and the look will match when they get there. We have layered files, sermon titles, and the sermon titles are available in Photoshop, so you can edit those. So you can edit to your sermon name. All memberships come with licensing agreements, and you have some editable title screens that are available for pro members. All right, so I've been talking a lot. It's 11:20. Let me make sure in my notes I hit everything I wanted. And I would love to take some questions over chat if you have it. If not, I will continue talking about some other items. Let's see, I have some other tips here. Oh, Quick Editor. I definitely want to touch on Quick Editor. And we do have a question that just came in. What do you get in a pro membership with Shift? That's a great question, because the pro and the media seem very similar, but there are some differences for that extra $100. I'm happy to share with you on that. So one thing of the pro membership gets is the syncing to Dropbox. And pro membership also gets access to all the editable files. So your Photoshop files, your After Effects files, things like that, that if you have someone in your church that's more of a designer than I am, that can take those files and really, use the actual raw files to create some unique elements for your church. I wanted to mention the quick editor. So say you wanted to have something a little bit more custom. I noticed someone that had signed up for our webinar was from a church called Center Church. So maybe you have a desire to make something custom. We have a quick editor with that's available for every collection, and maybe you want to use that for editing custom without having to know how to use Photoshop or After Effects or things like that. And you can add different elements in the quick editor. We have lots of elements on the site already for you that you can pull in, or you can upload your own elements, say photos or your own church logo or things like that. And then when you put in your maybe you wanted to say that, you put in your custom slide and you hit download, and that will download directly to your computer, as you can see there, as well as you'll get an email that it's ready in your My Media of your Shift account. So that's great for quick editing files outside of your presentation software or Photoshop or something like that. And this is something that we'll have more webinars on and more trainings on, especially from our designers that are really good at this kind of stuff. So every collection comes with the quick editor. The other thing I would like to show is how we have recently added multiple producers beyond Shift Worship. So we have all of Centerline New Media's content, which is a lot, and they also have full collections. But Centerline is also really known well for powerful mini movies for both seasonal and non-seasonal. So if you have a need for an intro video for your service, and you can also look for that based on the type. So you can search mini movies or by producer or through each collection. So there's thousands and thousands of collections and other types of media available at Shift. If you're new and you have downloaded the freebie, or maybe downloaded a couple pieces just based on the cost, if I were to be not logged in here, this may be you. Maybe you have an account that's not a membership, and you go to a product. You can purchase that for a price depending on the content. This mini movie is $19, but our memberships are very affordable, $149 per year. And I actually have a discount for you all that signed up for the webinar for 25% off to start for the first year. But here's another example of the things that come with the Pro plan. So you get everything involved in the media plan with the editable files and the one-click Dropbox downloads. Excuse me, getting tongue-tied here. So the subscriptions are a great way to set your church up to be able to browse anything and everything like we did earlier to set up your slides, and you don't have to worry about downloading each thing with a fee. So it's just one click from there on out. Obviously, it does take a little setup, a little work, but that's the fun part. I think it's the funnest part is looking through the website. It's much more exciting than creating the slide deck. That's a little bit more tedious work, but you have to do it. So so many things to browse through, lots of great collections. I mentioned at the beginning that we offer a new collection every week. So we just released this Mood Falls, which is a cool nature waterfall collection that has a lot of unique elements to it. So we're very excited about that. We're excited about some of the things coming up this summer. Some new types of content for social coming out in the next few weeks we're excited about, and we're always adding more. So wanted to share all that with you. All right, it looks like there's not too many more questions. So happy to answer any more if you want to stay on a little longer, or we can wrap this up and you get a few extra minutes back. I hope this was valuable to you. We're very excited about everything that we offer. We'll be sharing this recording as well, so if you wanted to check back on it. This is a list of everything I used in that service outline. We used some nature, some coffee, some mini movies, and the Lord's Prayer. So lots of things available